I am in recovery and I am clean and sober. And someone called me straight edge. And I was like, no, that doesn't really sit right.
This is not an interview. There is no format. This is simply a conversation about life.
And then so obviously at this time I was doing my straight edge thing when I didn't even know what straight edge was. We
Hmm.
had what in my high school we had like one straight edge kid, and um he had he had the little X on his the back of his hand and everything like
Yeah.
that. And he was a super, I mean, it was a Catholic school or whatever, but he was, I don't know. I couldn't tell what scenes were like. I just automatically assume, oh, he's some sort of skinhead or something like that. This is, and
Mm.
I mean, I had no clue, and I didn't know that I was living this either. You know.
Yeah.
Um, See, I could have been friends with this kid. I didn't even know we were on the same thing. So
Yeah. You were part of just by taking an action or choosing not to take an action, you found yourself possibly in another subculture that weren't even aware of. You had come to that conclusion on your own, but again, there's a group of people you could have connected with.
mm, yeah, I never
Hmm.
once spoke to this kid. We had classes and stuff together too. I never spoke to him. That's a shame. Yeah.
Did you know at the time what straight edge meant?
No, I didn't know the term. I only once I discovered it, and then I thought about this kid actually, and then I was like, oh, that kid was straight edge. I'm thinking, you see people and they're just like this. You like, oh, they worship the devil, or they're like, there's a fear that goes along because he's so different,
Hmm.
and so I, I had no clue about what any of that was, and I didn't know for myself. It was just the way that I was living.
Yeah. And that's something that you have stuck with?
My whole life. I didn't even
Huh.
think. The thing is I didn't really consciously even think about it until. I mean, I'm sure if I look back at my life and people who were in my life, there probably was a subconscious decision, but it didn't become active until I started going to raves, because
Right.
those things were so much in the it was so much in the forefront that you would be getting offered things, or to be sold things and stuff like that. And then there was like kind of a talk where I remember we were standing in line, for instance, one night going into this place in Baltimore, and they were a bunch of other people were laughing at the people in the line because it was like kind of an all ages event, but if you were I guess 21, you could bring beer in there, and the bar would hold it for you, and then you could come and get it, but you know what I mean, but they didn't sell
Hmm.
it. And
Hmm.
so I remember like people laughing at the people coming in with beer, like, you don't belong here, you know what I mean? And so when I would see things like this, that's when I started to realize, oh wow, what? I realized I've never even been drunk. I've never been high. Like, I didn't think about it. And so it wasn't until those kinds of things started happening that it became a conscious decision.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, when did you go from just not doing it to actually accepting the label, and like now you have it on your Instagram
Mhm.
profile, which I the SXE, before I knew what straight edge was, I was like, sexy, like that's a odd way to. But so at what point did you decide to actually accept and take on that moniker of straight edge?
Um, I felt like it was. an easy way to just put it out there so that someone would know beforehand, you know. And I actually wonder about it a little bit if there's some special thing that would make me completely straight edge, because I didn't listen to the music. I was never into that kind of hardcore music, so I don't know if that's a fundamental part of being straight edge. So in a way, I'm still like trying to figure it out, and no one's confronted me and been like, "Dude, you're not straight edge because clearly you wore this blue shirt and we don't wear blue." You know what I mean? So I've never
Yeah.
experienced. So no one's ever come to me that is in that scene and said to me, "You're not straight edge." But I feel like it's a good descriptor, and so and almost everyone knows what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I
So
think especially in that scene, it's one of the few, well, I don't know, one of the few, but it's a subculture where it's not centered around the music or aesthetic or um I guess like more consumerist, or it's about your consumption or lack thereof, but it's about lifestyle
mhm.
rather than yeah what books you read or what music you listen to. So I think in straight edge, by being, you know, by not consuming drugs or alcohol and by being vegan, you've kind of checked two big fundamental boxes, and like, okay, yeah, you don't listen to the music, but at the core you their live the belief, especially being vegan. That's a big part of, from what I know, the straight edge scene
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, and see, but that's why I say straight edge vegan. I didn't know it was I didn't know it was fully a part of it, but yeah, I guess so. And then there's this aspect of your sexual practices as well. And I don't know if I fall into this.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know there was a sexual practice aspect of the subculture. Would you
yeah,
elaborate on that?
from what I understand, I am by no means an expert, but from what I understand, like it's kind of part of it is not having um, sex outside of a committed or ongoing relationship or something. I think, or there's something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I got to read up or read a blog or something. I'm sure someone's going to tell me what it is, but
In the
I don't know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I certainly do not fall into this category.
Okay. I had no idea there was a component of that, but like I said, I don't identify, even though I am clean and sober, I don't identify with the straight edge scene. And but I think, like with both, saying you're clean and sober and saying you're straight edge comes with very different
Yes,
connotations.
yes. And actually, now that you say that, I think this was another reason that did do this, because, or say it like this, because I think if I tell people that I don't drink and I don't do any drugs without saying that I'm straight edge, because I mean, obviously you can be clean and sober and straight edge, but I think if you don't say that you're straight edge, people might assume that you're in recovery or, something like
Right.
that. And
Right.
so, and for me, I actually think it would be disrespectful to allow myself or allow someone to think that I'm in recovery, because I have super amounts of respect for people. Because for me, it's super easy because I have no idea what it feels like. I don't have any experience, so it's just the default setting for me. Like I don't know. And
Right.
but when it comes to people who do know and then they still don't You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I try to be respectful to them, and so this is part of the reason I make the distinction.
Yeah, and I think that that is an interesting distinction because I am in recovery and I am clean and sober. And someone called me straight edge, and I was like, no, that doesn't really sit right because I'm not like, even though our end goal and actions are essentially the same in that we don't consume, um, I I feel like we come from different places, and that is a distinction that doesn't necessarily have to be made. I mean, it certainly wasn't an insult that someone said I was straight edge, but it doesn't seem to fit quite right
Mhm.
in where I came from and what my experience has been with it.
Yeah. So I have to give you
Uh,
your props. This is I'm giving you your props now because I do think that it takes a certain level of strength, you know.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Um, it's Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it's absolutely been a worthwhile decision. So it's one of it's the reason that it's not easy goes against logic, but that's where the part of recovery comes in.
Mhm.
Is that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but for you, it's never been a question and it always has been logical to not take drugs or consume.
Right.
Whereas for me, I know that it's logical to not, and it does me no good, and yet I still do, or I still want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, eh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was I mean, I have like very like logical reasons and stuff like that, and I guess this would make it, I guess, would separate me from a straight edge person from a cultural standpoint. A lot of my decisions, for me, it was practical. I was like, I'm not like, I don't understand like what I'm going to get out of being drunk. Like, I don't, it doesn't seem fun to me. It doesn't seem interesting. And then I'm
Mhm.
gonna go to this party, or I go out with my friends and we have dinner, we go eat at the diner after we've been out to the club, and they're like, man, I spent like $80 tonight. And I'm like, what? I spent like three. What are you talking about? Like I just drank. Oh, we got okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have like these practical thoughts about it and stuff like that. And but it was really interesting actually to when I worked in a club and I was going to clubs all the time. After towards the end of the my rave days, then I moved into the actual club scene. I mean, there was an overlap, but like um, I think the club scene and the rave scene were a little bit different. And I noticed that sometimes I would tell people that I didn't drink, and I would get like a few very similar reactions from people. Like they'd be super excited about it, and if they introduced me to someone, they would be like, oh, this is Hollis, he's never been drunk, and this is a part of that. And then the reaction that I prefer is they're like, oh, that's cool, and then we just go
Yeah.
about our lives, however that will be. But then there was another reaction that I would get where someone would just want to try to get me to drink.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because you never had,
Yes.
or because it was. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Just really nothing. One. You have a look. Did you taste it? You want to taste it? Like you have it, and try to, you know,
Yeah.
and I started using this as a bit of a litmus test. And if someone did this, I would give someone one chance to do it. But if they did it more than once, I would be pretty sure this would be a person. Are we still connected?
Yeah.
It says your connection is unstable.
Oh, your Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
Wi-Fi's acting up.
okay, let me see. There's not 93.
While you take a, I'm just gonna open my curtains because it's getting a little dark in here.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Everybody loves the sunshine. Mm-mm-mm.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, look at you. You look so bright. You're like an
Yay.
angel.
I have great sunlight. I love my room.
That's awesome.
Very
Yeah.
good.
So I just wanted to just, why is this so, I was, what is going on? I was just going to say that, yeah, I use this as the litmus test. And so if someone did this more than once, then I knew this was a person that didn't really have my best interest at heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is a very good litmus test, is how people react to how people react.